History happened everywhere.
The verdict.
This is our after-show podcast where we look back at the most recent episode 98, Parenthood in Libya between 1492 to 1898, the Spanish Empire. So, if you haven't listened to that, go back and check it out, or else there will be spoilers ahead.
Are you sitting comfortably?
Hello, my name is Pete Goddard and I'm here in the HHE studio with the American consul to my Libyan prince. It's Mr. Ryan Weir.
That's right. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Ryan. And we're also joined, as ever, by the digester of dates for days. It's the judge himself, Mr. Paul Dursley.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Judge, sir. Now, Ryan, I'd like to talk about the episode, but I got sunstroke delivering a parcel all the way across the Sahara. Got the wrong blooming address, would you believe it? And I've forgotten
Tripoli.
and I've forgotten everything about the last episode. So, would you mind reminding us what happened in about 60 seconds?
I mean, I can do that, but when do you want me to do it?
I would like you to do it now.
In this week's episode, we travel to the heady heights of North Africa, to the sand-filled land of Libya, where Pete and I looked for tales of parenthood during the time of Spanish imperialism. We talked about the childish Game of Thrones that caused the siblings of the Karamanli family to cause bloody murder. We followed in the footsteps of Charles Lavazier and his group of white fathers as they looked to bring help to those who needed it most. We learned that Libya was once scared of the Galactic Empire, that curries are the result of two greedy Spaniards getting hitched, and we wondered aloud if humanity really was the unholy union of the god and his missus. It was parenthood. It was Libya, Libya, Libya. It was the time of the Spanish Empire. That was last week's episode done, summarised nicely. Nice one, son. Now we're over to a young Dursley, who's gonna tell you what he thought of thee. He'll take you apart without any care. He's the lovely Paul Dursley. The lovely Paul Dursley.
Ah, yes, it's all come back to me now. I enjoyed it very much and even murdered my brother in celebration.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's much quieter now. But my opinion is as nothing. We're here for the opinion of just one man, Judge Dursley. So, Paul, before we go along to the final verdict, why don't you tell us what your first impressions were of episode 98?
It's Cyrenaica.
Yes.
What is Cyrenaica?
Well, it's that eastern bit of Libya, but you kept on calling it wrongly.
Yeah, I thought I might have been.
Oh, come on, Pete. How's your Libyan these days?
My Libyan is Libby-absent, I'm afraid. But other than that minor quirk, shall we call it, overall, how do you feel about the Libyan area?
Take it or leave it, I think. It's one of those countries that's very much the coast, isn't it? As I suppose is all of northern and western Africa.
Yeah, most of the action is on the Mediterranean coastline, isn't it? You don't have to go too far before it's all just yellow on the map.
Yeah, it's the kind of place that I'd like to go and visit. And I looked it up to see how tourist life is like there, and it is almost entirely absent of tourism. You have to go through quite a rigorous tourist visa thing to go there, and then once you get there, nothing is set up for you. So without being able to speak the language or having somebody to guide you around, it's advised not to go, which is a shame because there is a lot of stuff there that I would like to see.
Just raise your voice.
Just shout.
Well, no, it was, after the Second World War up until 1969, it was a very sort of Anglophile country. So, Gadaffi studied at Sandhurst.
Yeah, he was an interesting character. It was unfortunately out of our time frame, but on the one hand, he can be portrayed as quite eccentric, but he did do a lot of interesting things for the nation. And I was on various forums and things, and there were still either a number of people or a number of bots who had a lot to positive to say about his attempts, at least, to bring equality and equity to the people.
Yeah, it's been, 13 years or so since he died, and time seems to be shifting more in his favour as the years go on.
Yes, I think they've seen the alternative and not liked it, but the alternative hasn't really been ideal, has it? Let's be honest.
He was notorious for farting.
Recreationally or as a sort of career?
It was more of the smell.
Oh, Lord, no. Really?
I wonder if that was a power play. He's like, are you going to say anything? Dare you say anything?
Yes, yes, exactly. You say something, you die.
Well, no, it's interesting because, he is an eccentric character. I mentioned during the episode about how he had made a declaration that everyone should have a chicken.
The chicken for every household very much stirred something in me, Ryan, I must admit.
Have you got a chicken since?
I've been thinking about investing in a chicken ever since you brought it up.
Now, I also mentioned that he had a TV channel that was dedicated to only playing his favourite movie. That was true. Apparently on Libyan TV, there was an endless repeat of the 80s sci-fi movie The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
That is a particularly non-notable film as well to have looping on your television screens.
Yeah, but I just like to think there's an entire generation that's just very familiar with The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. Find that amazing.
I can also imagine the meeting where he's saying, well, look, they've got a chicken, they've got Buckaroo Banzai to entertain them. What more do these people want?
What more do they need?
Well, they need a group of Amazon bodyguards.
Yes, exactly. You mentioned that, didn't you, Pete?
I did.
He hired an entire militia of only female warriors.
Yes, I came across them in passing. People who believe it was a kind of a power play or a sort of quirk of his. Others said there was a more sinister dimension to his bodyguards and actually they were part bodyguards, part harem. But it certainly strikes a blow, I suppose, for feminism where you are trusting your safety to a cadre of powerful and highly well-armed women.
Well, that is true. And women seem to feature in his life quite a bit. Famously, he was obsessed with the US Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. Apparently, he had a room dedicated to her with photos of her all over the walls.
That's not creepy.
Apparently, he gave her a $200,000 diamond necklace when she visited. And during that visit, he played her a video montage of herself with a specially commissioned theme song called African Flower in the White House.
Well, this is very much my approach to first dates as well. I like to really make someone comfortable by commissioning a song, sitting them in a room and then letting out some silent but deadlies just so that they know I'm serious about it.
Apparently, Condoleezza later said that Gadaffi was, and I quote, quite extraordinary, weird and a bit creepy.
Yes.
Yeah, I can understand where she was coming from. But he wasn't the only leader that had a bit of taste for Rice. Apparently, Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, he once told journalists, I have to confess, it was hard for me to concentrate in the conversation with Condoleezza Rice because she has very nice legs.
That's how you know your international negotiation is going well.
Yeah. There is also a story of him bringing 100 Italian models to his palace for what they thought was going to be a party, but actually turned out to be a lecture on Islam. Apparently, they left a couple of hours later with their own copy of the Quran.
Wow. Party.
Yeah, exactly. A less fun fact about Gadaffi is that he used to keep the bodies of people he executed in freezers at his palace so that he could go and visit them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very Idi Amin-esque.
He also liked board games, in particular the board game Clue. You know, the murder mystery game where you go around the mansion and you have to sort of guess who did what with when.
Oh, the one that we call Cluedo.
Exactly.
I'm going to guess he forced a confession out of the other players. It was me, I'll admit it.
Apparently he always played as Colonel Mustard, which I guess makes sense given he was Colonel Gadaffi.
I always used to be Colonel Mustard when I played Cluedo.
Ah, well.
I think it would be Colonel Gaddafi in the library with the deadly fart.
Yeah, apparently, though, you would not have been Colonel Mustard in Libya because he introduced a law that said only he could play as Colonel Mustard.
I'd accept that.
So there you go. Yeah, which is fair, right?
Oh, come on. This is fantasy, some of this now, surely.
So I've got some stuff, Ryan, but it's not about Gaddafi. It's about our era. Do you remember I said I read that book and there was absolutely tons of stuff and I wanted to share more of it?
Yeah.
I've got some more of it to share now.
Cool.
So, you know, I talked about how piracy was how the Libyans or the people of Tripoli would make their money back in the day.
Yeah, the Barbary Pirates.
Yeah, but there was kind of a business to it because what they really wanted to do was not pirate so much as do deals. It was closer to a protection racket because basically nations would pay off the Tripoli government and say, say, have some money, please don't pirate my ships. So consequently, if you then had this deal with Tripoli, what you would do is every consul from these main countries that had a deal with the Tripoli government would make a special passport, basically, which was sheets of paper with quite intricate designs on, right? So then they'd split these pieces of paper in half, and they'd give one set halves to the government at Tripoli, and then they would give the other half to their own sea captain. And then the pirates would set out to do some pirating, and if they pulled you over and you were a ship under the protection of one of these consuls who had a deal with the government, you would say, aha, I have my passport here. And they would take the two halves of the pieces of paper, and the pirate would go, does this match the other half? And if it matched, they'd be like, oh, okay, you're free to go, I won't pirate you. And if you didn't have a piece of paper, then woe betide you, because they would then pirate the heck out of you.
Oh, I'd never be able to find that bit of paper. I'd be like, just give me another 5 minutes. It's here somewhere.
Honestly, you've got keys out. It was just here, I swear to God.
Yeah.
So what the pirates would do, the way they would go about their pirating, they'd sail around with a helmsman that was dressed as a European, so no one would know that you're a sneaky pirate. And you kind of sidle up to another vessel. So you kind of drive parallel to them for a while and just gradually close the gap. So then you get close enough and they'd like jump out and go, rah, we're coming to get you. And that would kind of trigger the victim ship. They'd all go nuts. They'd all chuck their papers overboard so that nobody knew who was who or who the ship belonged to kind of sow doubt as to where it came from. All the rich people would ditch all their riches, because the more rich they appeared, the more ransom they would be worth, and so the more likely they were to get nabbed.
Okay. Ditching your riches sounds like a terrible idea, though, because then you have no riches.
Yeah, but so other people were going to pay your ransom is the idea.
Okay.
And sometimes it would go wrong because there was kind of people would, not unsurprisingly, start forging passports. So you might get captured anyway. So you can get brought back to Tripoli. And there was this routine basically where the pirates bring their captured slaves back to Tripoli. And then they bring all the consuls together and they kind of do a roll call. Well, I got this guy from this ship over here. And they're like, hello, I'm John, I'm from England. And then the consuls would, if they recognised one of their guys, they would go, oh, no, actually, he's one of mine. He's under the protection of England. And they go, oh, okay, you're not a slave anymore. Off you go. And they'd hold out their hands and get the sort of shackles struck off their wrists. The Grand Kaya would declare, you are free. And off you go. You're on your way. Presumably whilst all the other slaves go, oh, God damn it.
Yeah, looking at you going, what?
This is outrageous. So can you imagine you're captured and you're sitting there doing a little roll call going, oh, come on, man. One of these guys has got to recognise me.
Especially if you're English as well, because you'd feel all embarrassed and sheepish, full of shame. I'm so sorry. So sorry.
I'm sorry.
So sorry. Take me instead.
You've come back with all the other slaves and you're like, sorry guys, this is where I get off. Yeah. So anyway, that is how one goes about pirating in Tripoli.
Barbaric. All right, guys. Do you remember when we were talking about Charles Lavoisier?
The father of the White Fathers.
Yes, that's right. He was the French archbishop who travelled across North Africa trying to end slavery and building bridges between different faiths. You'll recall him, I'm sure.
He was wreaking havoc on the economy. They need slaves. Gosh darn it, their economy depended on them.
Exactly. Yeah, he was not your average 19th century missionary anyway, and I had a lot of time for him. Well, so I was digging into his story a little bit, and I stumbled across a remarkable story about one of his protégés, a young boy called Adrien Atiman.
That's a great name. Get at him, man.
So Adrien was born sometime around 1863, and he was originally from modern-day Mali. Now, sadly, like many kids in Mali at this time, he suffered at the hands of slavery. He was just 10 years old when slave traders turned up at his village, and they took him by force from his family. They led him in chains across the Sahara, sold him to some Arabs. And it's here that his story takes the turn, because Charles Lavoisier was leading a widespread anti-slavery campaign across the whole of North Africa. And one of the ways he did this was to visit markets where he would buy and then rehabilitate those who had been enslaved. And so, on one of these missions, Lavoisier comes across the young Adrien Atiman. Now, Lavoisier said that he immediately saw something important in the boy. He said that he was smart and emotional for such a young person, and he knew he had the potential for a bright future. So Lavoisieri, he bought Adrien from the traders and he gave him a chance to rebuild his life. As an academic, you'll remember, ex-professor, Lavoisieri knew about the power of education, so he sent Adrien to a missionary school to learn. There, he established himself as an outstanding student, so much so that Lavoisieri eventually arranged for him to go and continue his education by studying medicine in Tunisia. Now, there, Adrien passed his exams and became a doctor. Inspired by Lavoisieri, Adrien decides he's going to use his skills to help people, and in 1888 he moves to Tanzania, where he takes a job as the local physician in a small rural town called Karima. He spends the next 50 years living there, treating thousands of people, supposedly never turning anyone away, regardless of their background or faith or tribe. And perhaps unsurprisingly, given the time that he spent there, Adrien became something of a pillar of the community. He was someone that people went to not just for medical help, but for guidance and compassion too. He married the daughter of the local chief, he had a son named Joseph, and apparently he was seen walking around town with an old worn doctor's bag right up until the day that he died.
Wow, from slave to doctor.
Incredible,
that makes
right?
My city and guilds look a bit embarrassing, but go on.
Yeah, it is a bit embarrassing. Now, during his life, he was awarded numerous honours and medals, including 4 British decorations, such as the Royal African Society's Welcome Medal, which is given to individuals who make significant contributions to healthcare in Africa. He was awarded 3 Belgian awards for the care he provided to colonial troops during World War I, and in recognition of his career, he was later appointed a Knight Commander of the Order of St. Sylvester by Pope Pius VII.
Wow. Yeah, it's hard to imagine when you're a 10-year-old boy having been enslaved that he had all that success ahead of him. That's an amazing journey.
You know, and another example of Lavoisieri being a metaphorical and spiritual father.
Yes, which is totally valid and an excellent use of the term parenthood, I might add.
Thank you very much. I also agree. Don't you, Paul?
We'll see.
Well, there you go. Adrien Atiman, we salute you.
Salute. So, Ryan, do you want another Karamanli story?
Yeah, of course I do. Is there another sibling that was murderous?
Well, yes, let's have some more of the saga.
Well, I had a whole section which I had to cut just for time purposes on the first Karamanli. What I wanted to do was Parenthood and then through the dynasty, because there's only like 5 generations, I think. But the first Karamanli, he was no slouch either, I've got to say. Do you remember I mentioned that at the beginning, the Ottomans appointed the head of the country and they would move them around so they didn't gain too much power? When they did that, they would give them these people with the Janissaries, which we've come across before, I think.
Weren't they some sort of mercenary?
Janissaries in the Ottoman Empire were a kind of converted Christian soldier. We've met them in a couple of other places. They were the kind of the muscle, if you like, of the Ottoman Empire. Curiously, they were taken generally from various of their colonies and converted from Christianity and became sort of shock troops almost of the Ottoman Empire.
Wow.
So there were the Janissaries in the area, but there was also a kind of mounted troop in Libya or Tripoli at the time called Kaloglis.
Okay.
So 1711, there was a usurper. There was a lot of fussing and fighting going on in the area. There was a guy called Dey Mahmoud. He suppressed the Janissaries and all he needed to do was deal with the Kaloglis, but the Kaloglis were too strong. So he fancied himself cunning. So he had a little plan. He sent the leader of the Kaloglis to visit the Berbers, who were in the inland area of Tripoli. And he said to the leader of the Kaloglis, take this letter to the Berbers. It just announces me as the new Dey in the area.
Okay.
But the letter did not say, hello, I'm the new Dey of the nation. What it said was, hey, Berbers, if you kill the guy who's carrying this letter and all his friends, I'll give you a bunch of money.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't see this coming.
Well, the idea was that he'd blame the Berbers for the death of the Kaloglis leader, and then it would start a feud between these various Berbers and Kalogli forces, and Mahmoud would sit on the sidelines going, Mwah!
Yeah.
But
I'd work that out.
Funnily enough, Ryan, the leader of the Kaloglis was pretty onto this as well, because this was a guy called Ahmed Karamanli.
Ah, I know him.
he was the leader of the Kaloglis. So he thought that something's a bit up with this. This seems a bit fishy. So I'm going to have a little look at that letter. And he goes, hang on, this doesn't say, hello, I'm your new king. It says, kill me. This is no good. So what he does is he says, actually, I'm going to destroy. He destroys that letter. He writes a new letter that says to the Berbers, hey, Mahmud hates you and he's going to arrest you. So he takes that letter to the Berbers and says, well, I'm not going to arrest you, but this guy wants to. Why don't we team up and overthrow Mahmud, and then you won't get arrested and bothered by the new day of Tripoli.
Cunning Kalogli.
So he pulls up outside the capital with his new group of friends. He sends Mahmud a new letter in return, which says, quote, what you would have done to me, that I will now do to you.
That's a scary letter to get, isn't it? It's like, oh no, I've been rumbled.
I've really blown this. It's sufficiently scary that all of Mahmud's supporters run off rather than be caught up in this. And Mahmud just hangs himself. He's like, I can't even deal with it.
Wow.
So that's how Ahmed Karamanli becomes Karamanli Bey, the ruler of Tripoli and the first of the Karamanli dynasty.
Wow, how about that?
But that's not the end.
Okay.
As ever with the Karamanlis, there's always another thing to happen. So he's still a bit nervous about the Janissaries, or what's left of them. So he says to the Janissaries, hey guys, I'm your new leader. Let's all have a nice dinner in this building some way out of town.
There's always these cunning plans. They don't just attack each other. There's like, we've got to add some drama to it.
If you're a Karamanli, there must be a ploy involved at some point.
Yes, it's very much like the Bond villain, always explaining what they're going to do before they do it.
Exactly.
He really is, yeah. He said, come to my out-of-town location under a volcano, he says.
Yeah.
And as his guests arrive, there's this big band playing, lots of loud music. And the reason there's lots of loud music playing outside is because as the guests come in one by one to the building, his troops grabbed them and killed them as they arrived.
The music was there to cut out all the screams.
All the screams and the
my God.
fighting. So basically, by doing this, one by one, they come in and he kills them, and they come in and he kills them, and he kills about 300 of his enemies. And he saved a fortune on the restaurant bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then after that, there were a few attempts by the Ottomans to unseat him, but eventually they think this guy's not going anywhere. So in 1722, 2 Turkish ships arrived with a firman or an announcement from the Ottoman Sultan saying, okay, fine, Ahmed Karamanli, you are now the official ruler of Tripoli. And that's how Ahmed then stabilises his rule, and the Karamanli dynasty starts off.
I mean, all I'm taking from this is never trust the post.
Yeah, I'm saying always steam open any letter that comes past your door. Make sure you know what's going on, because you cannot trust these people.
I don't know, they're a bit amateur, aren't they?
Well, it seemed to work. At least the second one seemed to work.
Yeah.
Anyway, in totally unrelated news, Paul, do you want to come for dinner next week?
Beg your pardon?
I thought you might have a nice dinner. I know a good out-of-town restaurant you could come to. It'd be a big band player and you'll love it.
Don't go, Paul. It's a trick.
Let's talk about this offline.
Well, let's see what grade we get. Well, this brings us to the end of the line and means that it's time to step into the dock and prepare to face the People's Judge. Judge Dursley, are you ready to give your verdict?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then, Ryan, shall we rise?
Well, let's.
Your Honour, as usual, shall we start proceedings by asking first for your verdict on factual content? All those good Karamanlis, all that solid white father business?
Well, like yourselves, I thought Libya, well, there's nothing there, surely. And it would be a bit dry, for want of a better pun, but I think you may have nailed it there. You may have been lucky on your time period, but you did dig up some very interesting factoids.
Woohoo!
So I think for that, I shall give you B-.
Good stuff. Let's see if we can keep that rolling. And your verdict then for entertainment value. Did you have a good time?
Oh, well, entertainment value, I must admit I wasn't looking for that much of it, given the subject matter. You did, for once, have a couple of witty little skits in there, so I think, as I can be a generous person...
He is, famously.
Well, I'll give you... let's... heads or tails?
Ooh. Heads.
I shall give you a C+.
Tails.
Okay, I'll give you a C.
Oh,
I'll go with a C+.
all right, we'll take a C+. Thank you very much. And finally, this is where it all could fall apart. The unknowable, the mysterious. What did it do to tickle your fancy? The Dursley factor. What is your grade?
Well, it's one of those things, I'm sure you get it when you do come up with the random subject, and you sort of think, well, that's going to be an easy one, or that's going to be a difficult one, but as an innocent, intelligent listener, you sort of go in with the same thing when you know the subject. Well, I think you actually did a pretty good job on that one, so I shall give you C+.
Yay!
That's a distinctly mixed cheer.
Now, this brings us to the final verdict, but before the judge passes his ruling, Ryan, we have an opportunity to enter a plea.
Don't.
Do we choose to do so?
No, it's going all right, isn't it?
Okay, in that case, Your Honour, the defendants stand before you. Have you reached a verdict?
Yes, I have.
Then, in that case, I ask respectfully for your final ruling.
Well, first of all, you can sit down,
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honour.
because I'm going to give you B-.
Yay! That's a B, basically.
No, it's not.
B-esque. It's B adjacent.
B-.
B-. Thanks, Your Honour.
Yay! Well done, Ryan.
Thanks. Ah, that was awesome.
Pulled it out of the bag. I thought it was really going to be a difficult episode, and it was, and then suddenly it wasn't. And I think the Karamanlis, certainly from my point of view, were absolute godsends.
As opposed to the missionary who was literally God sent.
By God himself. Thanks, White Father. All right, well, on that terrific grade, that's our show for this week. If you'd like to get in touch about any of the things we talked about on the show, or if you just want to say hi, please do feel free to reach out to us on social media. You can go through our website at hhepodcast.com, or you can email Pete and Ryan at hhepodcast.com.
Yeah, we love hearing from you, and you never know, you might end up featured on a future show.
And one way to definitely do that is to rate and review the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or...
Good Pods! Yeah, 5-star approved by Keb.
Yay, Keb.
Thanks, Keb.
Please be like Keb. Your recommendations really help the show come to new listeners, which we are always all about.
Now, if you are on Mastodon, Facebook, Instagram, or X, you can find us at HHE Podcast. And if you subscribe to those, you're going to get an alert every time we post any trivia tidbits, news, photos, pictures of the Sahara, and other Gadaffi facts.
And we'll be back again soon with our next episode, number 99, Law Enforcement in Moldova between 1455 and 1487. Which is the War of the Roses in England, and is a very narrow time period we are discovering.
It's very narrow, isn't it?
But we'll have something, we promise you. We did it on Libya, we'll do it again. But in the meantime, a huge thank you to the judge himself. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
And that's it. I guess all that's left to say is...
You've been listening to... Some other Gadaffi facts. Apparently every year on September the 1st, Gadaffi would celebrate the anniversary of his initial coup by sitting in front of TV cameras and eating an entire squid and drinking a cup of coffee.
I think I'd tune into that, you know.
Did you know that he studied Klingon, the fictional Star Trek language?
It's hard not to warm to him. He pursued his passions, clearly.
He surely did, yeah. He had plans to translate his book of political ideology into Klingon.
Really get the message out there.
Yeah. Apparently, he used the name Gandalf69 on eBay because he used to go on there to buy and sell Beanie Babies. That was his passion. He loved little soft toy Beanie Babies.
No, I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, no, apparently he had a huge collection of them.
No.
Over 500,000 Beanie Babies.
Absolute nonsense.
Well, apparently he did. He stored them in a warehouse on the outskirts of Tripoli. And after his death, the warehouse was raided, and some of them have since made it back onto eBay and have sold for thousands of dollars.
Did he put his name on each of them? So, like, one of Gaddafi's unicorns.
Yeah, he got his mum to sew on a little label.
I can understand 69 because that's when the coup was and he took power.
Oh, is that what it is?
And what other 69s are there?
Yeah. He also liked 10-pin bowling. Apparently he was something of an expert. He bowled a perfect 300 on his birthday in 1976, and then after wore a ring with 300 written on it.
Oh, wow. Perfect 300 on a belly full of squid. That is impressive.
But at the time of his death, Gadaffi was considered to be the richest man in the world, worth somewhere around $200 billion.
Didn't help him much at the end, did it?
It certainly didn't, no. And before his death, fearing that, all the money was going to get taken away, he had it transported in cash to South Africa, which was kind of friendly to Libya at the time. And he sent it out in a series of trucks and planes and boats. And he sent it to Jacob Zuma, who was the then Prime Minister of the country, who promised to take care of it. And sure enough, he did. He put it in a series of bunkers around South Africa. And later, when Gadaffi died, Zuma then stepped back from politics, moved to neighbouring Swaziland, and is rumoured to have taken the money with him. Because none of that cash has ever been found. And it turns out that a lot of it became worthless, because in 2017, the value of Libyan currency just plummeted, dropped by 60%. So it's worth only about 80 billion now.
Oh, shame.
So there you go. There's some Gadaffi facts for you.
Some of which may be true.
Well, I think if you gave me that kind of limitless power, I'd do some pretty bonkers things as well. So I'm liberal on believing that kind of thing, because once you get given unfettered power, all sorts of madness can leak out, can't it?
Yeah, imagine if he'd just spent 200 billion on Beanie Babies. Just hidden bunkers around South Africa with soft toys.
And warehouses of plushy horses and things.
Jacob Zuma just diving into a bunker filled with Beanie Babies.
Okay, Hollywood, heist movie of heist movies. The big Beanie Baby robbery.
And relax.
Hello, lovely YouTube folks. This is a special message just for you.
Yeah, thanks for listening all the way to the end.
Now, if you enjoyed the show, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
And don't forget to take a moment to hit that like and smash subscribe.
Hit that like.
Yeah.
Smash subscribe.
Yeah, that's what people say.
Do they, though?
Yeah, only the cool kids.
And you think you're the cool kids, do you?
No, we're the cool kids.
Oh, yeah, I suppose we are. All right, smash that like button, people. Smash it real good.
Oh, yeah. Nice.